By the way, thanks to Retired Stockbroker for a super chat. We appreciate that. And Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Man, have we missed you. I saw you swinging the club earlier today playing golf. I hope it went well. Hope you're doing well. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, Smoke. Thanks. It's great to be with all you guys. And, yeah, the first 2 weeks of August, I was on the shelf, man. I've not been that sick in a long, long time. And I'd gotten back from our college football seminar and NFL seminar, had a good week at home, and all of a sudden, man, I got a case of Montezuma's revenge. It was COVID-like symptoms, but not COVID. I definitely checked on it, but I couldn't get out of bed for like 3 days, and then I tried probably a little too soon to do some work in the front yard, mow the grass. Well, that was a setback. That probably set me back a little further. I should have not been so hard-headed, and I should have probably gone in to see my doctor and gotten a cortisone shot sooner. But finally, after about 10 days, I went in and I got the cortisone shot, and so I've gotten better. But it was just really, really heavy-duty chest congestion and phlegm and nothing digestive, nothing like that. But hard time to sleep at night. You know, I was on the NyQuil Tylenol diet for like 10 days, and finally I got the cortisone shot, and I'm a lot better. Played great today. I've not played golf since I was at Trump National, so it's been almost 3.5 weeks. And I guess because I thought I might be a little bit slow and not my normal gregarious self, I played a little more cerebral round and didn't try to do anything too daring, and I shot an 82. So I had a great round. No birdies, but I made no double bogeys either. So that helped, and got together with my guys. Going to do it again Thursday and maybe one more time on the weekend, and then I got to work. It's time for me to get back at it. We Devin and I do work the week 0 game on FS1 in Albuquerque between New Mexico and Montana State, that FCS power that is Montana State. And then we're off to the races. After that, we've got big boy football the rest of the way. So time for me to get back at it.
Tim, now you got to break in a new color analyst, and I'm going to miss hearing you two together, but is that process though fun? I mean, I know that can be challenging where you have to find each other's beats and all of that, but now that you have a chance to break in a new partner, what's that like?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, and like you, when we first heard about it, Spencer and I a couple of months back, it was, there was pause. It's difficult to hear. I think we both probably thought that we were going to ride into the sunset together. But you know what? The good news is the sun has not set yet for either of us, and they had other plans. So, that's the good news. If they say we're making a change and the change means you're not working, then that's a real bad change. So if they're making a change and they just want to liven it up and deliver new partners for you, I can't speak for Spencer, but I can speak for myself. My first year at Fox was without Spencer, and one of the reasons they hired me, and one of the things I tried to convince them of, no executive is going to take a victory lap over hiring a 58-year-old play-by-play sportscaster who's also hosted and has worked at 3 different networks over 30-plus years in the business. I mean, they're not. So for me to be hired at Fox, I had to convince them that I could help them in a variety of ways. And one of those ways was to help their younger talent. That of all the play-by-play people they had, and this included, mostly I was talking about college football, their portfolio for college football. Gus is a good 10, 11, 12 years younger than me. The other play-by-play guys that they have, Jason Benetti and In the past, it was Joe Davis. Those are all guys, 20, 25, 30 plus years younger than I am. I mean, I could be their dads. So, but they didn't have a guy that had that kind of experience and a voice that had been so identified with college football over a variety of networks over such a long period of time. And so I when I met with them in the summer of 2014, a little over 10 years ago, I was asked the question, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I told them, ironically, here we are 10 years later. But what I said to them was, I don't think you have a guy like Vern Lundquist at your network. And I'd like to be your Vern. I think I could be your Vern. And by that, I mean a guy that you could plug in anywhere. If your top guys, for whatever reason, have to go do something else, you're going to get a first-rate broadcast. But more importantly, if you've got young analysts that are coming up, whether it's football, basketball, whatever, I'm a guy that has specialized with working with a number of different people in all the sports I've covered for many, many years. And I think I can help make them better. And that first year, if I was thrown right into the booth with, of all people, Joel Klatt, who had not worked with anyone nearly as experienced as me up until that time. Joel had been in the studio, and we had some weeknight games that year, and they wanted Joel to work with me. And then on weekends, when Joel was in the studio, they wanted to utilize me with Brady Quinn, who had never been in the booth at all, ever. Brady was just coming off of the last cut of the Miami Dolphins in Key Biscayne. And he shadowed Joel and I when we did our first games together. And then we did a game after that. And I think both of those guys flourished. I think both of them had really good years. The following season, Charles Davis moved to the NFL, and Joel moved up to work with Gus. And I think that year we had together, we did the Pac-12 title game that year, the Mariota win over Arizona in Santa Clara. And he was very impressive, and I knew he was hardwired for great success. And I was happy to be a part of, his growth. I really was. And the same thing with Brady. Brady's gone on to do a lot of NFL stuff as well as, of course, Big Noon. So that first year, that's kind of what I did. And in basketball, whether it was with Donnie Marshall or Jimmy Jackson, or obviously Raph and I do a lot of games together too. But my point was, let me be your Vern. Let me be the guy that brings some gravitas, some history, some tradition, and you can bring some of your younger guys up, and maybe I can be of help. Well, when those guys moved up and we needed an additional analyst, it was their idea. They came to me and said, Tim, is there anyone you would recommend? And, I said Spencer. He was in the final year of his deal. And so without them, Spencer and I don't get the 9 additional years that gave us 25 overall in the last 26 years together. So he and I are both very proud of the fact that we had that run, and it was historic. I mean, only Herbstreit and Fowler have been together longer in college. The only broadcasters that spent that much time together over 2 networks in the history of calling play-by-play in color is Summerall and Madden. I mean, that's rarefied air. So we're both very, very proud of the fact that we had that time together. But for Spencer, I think change is good. He's approaching it that way. He's going to work with Eric Collins. And for me, Devin Gardner is a guy that's, he's really talented. He's done a lot of stuff in Detroit, the Detroit area already. He's been doing Lions preseason games. He did the UFL back in the spring, but he's not worked with anyone as experienced as me. And I think they believe that the former Michigan quarterback is a guy they want on some more high-profile games in the Big Ten, particularly those on Friday nights. I think we're going to do, not all of them, but probably I'd say more than half of those Friday night games will probably be ours. And on the weeks that we don't do Friday night games, we'll be getting really good Saturday games. And he's 32 years old. My youngest daughter's 34. So I'm excited about working with Devin, and I know he's excited about working with me. So watching him grow and watching him flourish and setting him up to be, the star that the executives at Fox want him to be, that's my calling card. At this stage of my career, if I'm going to stay around for as long as I'd like to stay around, then that's going to be my task. That's going to be the role I play. So I'm very enthused about what we're going to be able to accomplish. And yeah, we'll have to learn one another, and that whole chemistry thing evolves over time. But he's got a good handle, I think, on the way I go about my business. And I can tell you, I'm very excited about him. Having seen some of his work already, I know he's going to be really, really good. He's a classic type A quarterback perfectionist. Got a lot of Joel Klatt in him. Got a lot of Brady Quinn in him, really. But there's some fine tuning that can come, and hopefully I can help in that area. So that's really the task at hand for me.
One thing that you may not know is that he is kind of a mentor for Baylor's transfer quarterback, Devonte Finn, out of Toledo. He's a guy that,
I heard that.
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah,
I did. And he was really big at the Manning Passing Academy. Archie and Coop and Peyton. I saw Cooper at our seminar, and he was one of the counselors as, after he participated as a kid. He, for those that don't know, and maybe are trying to remember in your area of the country, it was Devin Gardner that wore the number 98 as quarterback at Michigan, paying homage to the great Tom Harmon. And so he has a real understanding of history and tradition, and he got banged up when he went to the pros, and his career was cut short. But he's been on top of wanting to be a really top-notch broadcaster for quite some time. So he's not a novice. He's going to come in with some experience, and I think we'll hit the ground running a little bit. As I said, Brady had never done it at all. I mean, he had never been in the booth, period. And I've been in situations like that. Every booth is different, but he'll be, for the first time, Devin will be in a booth with a guy that's spotted with me for 20-plus years, Brett Bender, Scotty Alexander, my content coordinator, and statistician. He's going to be in a big-time booth environment that he's never been in before. And I think that's really going to help him as an analyst. And I just, like I said, my job is to make him great. And that's the role when you get to this particular time in your life, as I have, that you have to play.
Tim, I know because you have been down for a couple of weeks, and I just heard you kind of cough because your voice could be worn out. Is it okay? Do you want us to break here, or do you want to give you a chance to take a glass of water or something like that?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay.
Whatever
good.
you need to do.
All right. By the way, everybody in the chat is saying, thank God you're back. They love it. They love your segment. They appreciate. They're glad you're feeling better, too. Go ahead, Paul.
Tim, I remember Devin honoring Tom Harmon. So does this mean that you're now in good with Gibbs from NCIS?
I guess so. It's funny. He actually told me that when Tom Harmon came to visit, well, not Tom, when Mark Harmon came to visit, now this shows you the difference in age. He said, I had no idea who he was. I'd never seen any of his shows. I said, well, did you not know he was a starting quarterback at UCLA? He said, hell no, I had no idea. So, I'm going to play that card all I can. And I told him that his nickname is forever, 98. I'll be referring to him as 98 quite a lot because it was a very distinctive quality about him. And as I said before, I think the thing about guys that are quarterbacks, especially guys that were starters in big-time environments like Michigan or like Brady at Notre Dame, they've got a very succinct feel about the way they want to see the game and view the game. And my hope is to broaden that perspective some, and at the same time allow him to understand that some of those factors that make you special, taking risks as an announcer, like first guessing. So if you feel that you believe a play is going to go a certain direction before the snap, I'll be quiet. You just let it go. I think sometimes guys are a little tentative early in their careers because they don't want to look bad. Sometimes you got to understand that if you don't take the shot, then you never get the credit.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of that would have been Romo in his first year. Remember, Romo working with Nance got all this credit because he kind of knew the offenses, and he really didn't have to do a lot of homework to know what the tendencies of the teams were. It's different in college because you don't know everything the way you know the way NFL franchises operate. Okay, it's a whole different animal. But that doesn't mean you still can't take some shots. Go ahead and say where you believe a play may be going, or I see an ISO up here at the top, those kinds of things. I want him to know that he can trust that he's never going to get in my way by suggesting something before the snap. Now, once the snap takes place, I got to make the call. But prior to the snap, go get you some, big fella. That's part of it. And I think a lot of times with young analysts today, particularly if they're just working games here and games there, if you haven't been really well produced, well directed with some experienced people, that's the other great thing about our team. I'll have the same producer, Jake Jolivet, same director, Dustin Dente. Our crew's been together now 7 years. So that's what makes a broadcast special. Not just the guys in the booth, but the guys that from a production standpoint are with you. They're kind of feeling the game with you. They understand it. And their knowledge of where Devin wants to go and where I'd like to take him, if there's a sixth sense for that and you develop that over time, it makes the broadcast a lot easier.
Well, it's a compliment, no question, to what they know you can do with him. And I hate that you and Spencer were split up, but again, you move on, and I know you're going to make Devin into a star. Tim, the top 25 polls are out. The AP came out yesterday. It's pretty much, I think, cut and dry with what I expect.
Sure.
There's no group of five team. Yeah.
Rinse, repeat. Here we go.
Yep.
Same crap. Alabama, they're screaming bloody murder, lowest preseason ranking since 2009. I'm like, they have no business being in the top 10. No business being in the top 10. You look at that schedule and you look at what they've got coming back, they should be right around where Missouri is. It's just brand name, and then we get to Ole Miss and we go, okay, we'll switch it up here and we'll put Ole Miss number 6 and shake it up. But the top 5, correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, doesn't Ohio State play Oregon very early? I believe they do, don't they?
I think they're right. It's in the first.
Very early.
It's before. It's right at the turn. Basically, So
fellas, how can you have those teams? It's like, let's just stack them up like a starting grid at the Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee and have our NASCAR race of brand names. The damned AP poll, along with, and this just plays right in, it fans the flames of the corruption in the college football playoff committee meetings, because they stack these teams based on brands every year, no consideration given to schedule. Alabama's got a pretty tough schedule. No consideration given to it. No. Why? They're Alabama. Has anybody considered the schedule of Missouri? And you got them at 11? Check that schedule, fellas. How in God's name could Missouri, based on who they've got to play, and the Burton kid coming back, what they did to Kansas State early, does that not matter at all? That's a good team that's got a cakewalk schedule, even in the almighty SEC. How can they be 11? They don't consider at all. They never do, these writers. They never do. They just stack it with the big names so that it's easier for the committee to keep the big names where they want, and programs like Florida State continue to get screwed. Now, we're going to have the same problems we had with 4, with 12. The difference is going to be it won't be quite as big a deal because the team left out won't be undefeated. But there will be 2-loss teams, maybe even 3-loss teams, that are far more deserving than an Alabama, or far more deserving than potentially an Ohio State or a Notre Dame, that won't get in, while those teams are still on the precipice of getting in because of who the hell they are. And until the committee comes out with more specific criteria, which to this point they have not, then, I mean, other than us knowing that everybody that's in the, quote, Power Four gets in, we know that the Big 12 will get a team. We know the ACC will get a team. They're stacking this thing up so the Big 10 can get 4 and the SEC can get 4. I mean, it's just as corrupt as it will be with 4. It just won't be, as I mentioned, quite as noticeable because we won't have anything as egregious as what we had last year with Florida State being left out. But we're going to have the same problems. We absolutely are. I mean, pencil in, the only thing that you would do differently is what? Put Liberty or Tulane or said team out of the group of 5 in, or what used to be the group of 5 in, into that 12 hole. But everything else is stacked a certain way. Iowa is the Big Ten version of Missouri. Have you checked the Iowa schedule? Now, I know the offense has been god-awful, but McNamara is coming back off the injury, and they do have a better offense, I believe, coming in. And look at who they play. I mean, that team, they could be an 11-1 team. It's like no consideration given for schedule and how teams could possibly ascend. And that broken record of mine about corruption in the college football playoff will not stop simply because we have 12 over 4.
Tim, and you kind of see this too at the bottom of the poll where you run into where there's less of a clear argument to make, because the brands, while not as big as the top, are still pretty big, right? And then, USC's not in this thing, let's throw them in there. Well, what did USC done to deserve that? I mean, you could make a better case for Louisville, Virginia Tech, Boise State, SMU, West Virginia, and Memphis right now, I think, than Boise than USC.
No doubt about it. Hell, Boise State. I mean, they might go undefeated out of their league. The only reason USC is ranked where they are in the AP poll is because they have to play LSU early. Right? They're banking on the fact that LSU's going to fix their problems defensively sooner than USC will fix their problems defensively, hence LSU being ranked where they are, sandwiched between Utah and Clemson. To be perfectly honest, I am shocked that Utah got that high of a ranking. That's the one that, normally they'd be 19, 20. They'd be down there where K-State is, where Arizona and Kansas are. The respect for the Big 12, I will tell you, is, I think, noticeable because when you've got that many teams ranked, 5 or so, I believe, that's telling you they know the league is going to be good bottom to top. And it will be. Now, the key is going to be one of these teams, whether it's Kansas State or Utah, needs to get off to that sort of 6-7-0, 8-0 sort of TCU and 22 kind of story developing, because if you don't have that, then you'll be overlooked by everybody. The carnival barkers that are doing the pep rally shows on morning television, okay, the show I originally hosted years and years ago that most would have you believe didn't exist until 1993, that show over there on the 4-letter network, they're not going to talk about any Big 12 teams until they get to an 7-0 or 8-0. They're not. I'm telling you, they're not. And the same is true with teams out of the ACC, unless you're Clemson. Okay, possibly Miami. This thing is railroaded so that the Big Ten and SEC can buy, and one of them will get 4 teams in. It absolutely is. There is no doubt in my mind that one of those two conferences is going to get 4 in come hell or high water.
Yeah, you can't ever see a scenario, and you would hope that because of what they've done, that it could happen. But there's never going to be more than one group of 5 team that gets in.
Probably not, and that's unfortunate because who knows? What if there's lightning in a bottle?
Yep.
I've seen some of those Mountain West teams, and you have too. And I know it's been a hard time since Fickle left Cincinnati. In that, for them in the Big 12, we'll see what happens with them moving forward. But there are going to be times, in college football where some of these programs really do flourish. Look, if the Daniels kid stays healthy, guys, Kansas, put them in your spotlight, in your back pocket, because that's a team that could wreak havoc this year. I mean, they could. And if they don't, I really believe K-State could. That Kansas State-Arizona game on Friday the 13th of September, which Devin and I are already assigned that game, I cannot tell you how big a game for the Big 12 that is. It is a huge game because the winner of that game, in my view, is going to be the team that vies with Utah to be the kingpin and will challenge Utah, who, in my estimation, their defense is ready, and with Cam Rising back and apparently healthy, reports out of there are very, very good. That team is legitimate, and I know it's the wrong time zone for a lot of people, but, Utah's won over a lot of blue blood college football people. They know, just the kind of job they've done. And it's a solid program through and through. And if the kid at K-State is as good as we hear he is, and he was good enough for Will Howard to go check out Columbus, Ohio, where I'm not sure if he's even going to be the starter, but sounds like he might be. Kansas State could be hell on wheels too. So I think the Big 12 Conference has a great chance to be a party spoiler, a party crasher. And if they're not, somebody else could easily be. Look, Arizona's bringing back a lot of talent. And the coach that replaced Jed Fish that went to UW, Brennan, did an incredible job with nothing to work with at San Jose. Took them to a Mountain West title during the COVID year. And, they had no budget, nothing to work with. Former UCLA wide receiver, played for Rick Neuheisel back in the day. Good guy, good coach. There's a lot. And the Dillingham kid at Arizona State, probably a year away. But I'm telling you guys, the Big 12 is just going to be rock'em sock'em. Every game's going to be close. I'm looking forward to that Texas Tech Wazoo game that we're going to get. I think that's week 2, which is for us will be week 3. It'll be our third game out at in Pullman on the Palouse. Texas Tech is another team that, not getting a lot of love. They never do, but you guys look back on that. That 0-2 start they had a year ago, was that not the best 0-2 team that you can remember before they got all banged up? They were legit, and I think that Joey's going to have a chance of having a great season. Now, it's hard to win at Wazoo, but and Wazoo's trying to get as many big victories against quality opponents while they're representing the only 2 teams in what was the Pac-12. But that's a very important game for Texas Tech, just as was the Wyoming and those Oregon games that they had last year, which could have gone either way if you look back on it. Texas Tech could have won either one of those games last year.
Tim, the ACC and the Big 12 find themselves in similar positions when it comes to this college football playoff. Florida State, Clemson, maybe Miami, look like they are teams that can contend for that. But is this going to be kind of a race between these two conferences to see which one lucks out in we got a second team in this thing?
Well, I do think that the league that has the best chance of getting 2, if you're going to, narrow it down to that, it's the Big 12. Okay, because enough teams in the Big 12 are able to dodge one another, that I think there's a chance you could have a couple of teams with gaudy records, which is what it's going to take. As I said, you need lightning in a bottle for one of them. You need the ability. The question for teams like Kansas State and even Utah, new to the league, I think Utah's proven it. They did in the Pac-12, as good as that league was, and I don't need to tell you guys how great it was a year ago. But even then, with all the injuries they had and no Cam Rising, they competed. Over the long haul, a team like that is hardwired to go out and take care of business against teams you're supposed to beat. It's one thing to beat teams in big games when you're playing late at night and everybody's watching you. Okay? Or Oregon's going to go through that in the Big Ten this year. I love Oregon to beat Ohio State, and I love Oregon to possibly win the Big Ten this year. Okay? But the thing Oregon's going to have to do is they're going to have to learn to win the games after those big games where everybody's watching, okay? After game day's been there, after Big Noon has been there, after, Chris and Kirk have called the game in prime time, and you got to come back the next week and play in the middle of the afternoon against, let's say a team like, Purdue, or a team like Wisconsin, or a team like Iowa that a lot of people aren't that pumped up about. You got to take care of business against those teams. And in the Pac-12, what happened was those teams did not have the discipline more oftentimes than not to get that done. Now, UW did last year. Oregon did last year. Will they be able to do that with the cross-country travel that they've got to make to play those games? I think in the Big 12, it's a similar story. Kansas State is going to have a huge crowd for that Arizona game, but will they be able to pick back up and then go play against the team that they're supposed to beat and take care of business? Utah in the past has been able to do that. Teams like Kansas State, teams like Kansas and Texas Tech, if you want to step up in class, Oklahoma State is that team that no one talks about, fellas, but you guys know Gundy.
Oh, yeah.
He wins those games all the time. I mean, that's what Oklahoma State's calling card has been. It's one of the reasons why in the last decade and a half of what the Big 12 used to be, it wasn't Texas and OU about Big 12 titles. No, it was coming down to Oklahoma State and Oklahoma and Bedlam if you were talking about winning Big 12 titles. More oftentimes than not, that was the game, not the Red River Shootout. I mean, it wasn't. Texas got it together late, finally. And, Texas is still the biggest game. I remember all that, and I'm giving them their due. But Gundy is a specialist schematically in winning games when his team doesn't play its best or against opponents that maybe his team wasn't as up for as you would like them to be, and yet he got out of there with a W. The team that's got the discipline to do that in the Big 12 is going to have a chance to get in, even if they don't win the Big 12. I think there's the ACC in my mind is a one-bit league. I don't think they've got the strength in numbers to be as competitive as need be. You can make a case that Florida State is right now in a better position than Clemson, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. But I don't think that you can get both of those teams in. I just don't. And you got too many bottom feeders. It's going to really take a while for teams like Stanford and Cal to fit in, and SMU to some extent. SMU might surprise the hell out of a lot of people early. I mean, they could be a factor. They really could. That program is I think armed and dangerous, and those oil baron boys are ready to take on the ACC, aren't they? We'll win your league, and we don't even want your money.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah, their confidence level is really, really good, and it's either going to help them or the bubble might be popped. And but they
tell you what we'll do. They're saying we'll tell you what we'll do, Stanford. Now we'll underwrite you so those liberals will let you come play big boy football. But by God, we don't want the money. We just want the title.
Yeah, we want the title, and we want to be associated with the autonomy force so they could raise $196 million or whatever it is. And they got a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
I'm excited for them. Not everybody is. There's some that just can't stand it, you know. But
I am. I'm happy for SMU. I think it's great, and I think it's super that they're going to come into the ACC, which has got a lot of problems. Okay, and they're going to try to make those folks, those holier than thous in places like Clemson and Tallahassee and Miami, who are thinking about, we want to be in the big boy league. They're going to remind them that maybe they need to take care of themselves where they are before they worry about going to the SEC or the Big Ten.
Tim, thank you. Get that voice rested. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. And we hope to have you on quite a bit, as you know, throughout the football season.
Well, it means a lot. And I thank all of your folks that chime in and are happy that I'm back. I'm happy to be back. And in a few weeks, once toe meets leather, let's get together again.
Yes, sir. You stay tight. We'll talk to you soon. Tim Brando, Fox Sports, with us on 365 Sports.